Hi folks, welcome to today's color process video. Right, today's comic is a good example of one where I didn't feel entirely happy with how the line work turned out. So the colors very much do the heavy lifting here. And typically with my comics, I like for there to be a balance between the line work and the color work. Um, I like them to both meet each other in the middle, say, and work together that way. Um, However, there are cases like this where I feel that the balance tips in favor of one over the other, and I feel this is very much that case. Specifically, as I said, tending towards the color. As I mentioned with the like in the typed up process post, this was one of those comics where it was just an absolute struggle to draw, and I came so close so many times to scrapping it, but I decided to stick with it and just get it done. And I was hoping that once it was scanned in, that adding color to it help would help save it somewhat, and I'm fairly confident that that is the case. I mean, it's by far it's not my best comic, but it ended up looking a lot better than I thought it would. Now that doesn't always work. There are cases where the artwork can be so lacking in merit that trying to add color to it, it's akin to polishing a turd, and it can, if anything, accentuate the worst elements of the drawing. It can just bring more attention to them. Thankfully, in this case, I don't think that's what happened. I'm hopeful that people will see it like I do. That you know it turned out to be a solid page. Um, One thing I actually am quite happy with, and it's a good example of what I'm talking about with letting the color do the work, is that last panel where Mario is falling. I had originally envisioned that as just being just a pure black background, and I thought it worked well enough, but I just when I was finishing up the piece, I just felt that that last panel needed something a bit more. So at first I toyed around with just adding gradients, and they looked okay, but it still didn't really click with me. So just to try it out, I decided to use one of the spatter brushes I have access to, and I chose the yellow. Was it the yellow? No, 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 no. I chose the red that I used for Mario's hat, nose, and shoes, and I just went to town on that last panel. I just added lots of red, and it gave this effect that I wasn't actually intending of. It almost gave the impression of like fire or smoke that's lit by fire underneath. And while it wasn't my intention that the last panel would be, say, Mario going to hell or something, I liked the look of that, so I decided to go with it. So just to add to that impression of like fire coming up from below, I then chose or color picked the yellow from the coin, reduced the brush size just a tad, and added that on top of the red, just layered it on top. And yeah, those two colors on top of the not quite black, but let's just say black, it gives a really effective uh, impression of like flames below. And it's one of those cases where it wasn't quite a happy accident, but it's close to it. Where sometimes I find in art, and it's one of my favorite things that happens when you do art, is that sometimes you'll happen upon things without intending on happening upon them, and it can really enhance a piece. And yeah, like it definitely brought something to the table here that wasn't there before, which I very much like. And then, of course, to further give the impression of Mario falling into a pit of flames or whatever it is, um, I decided just to add like an impression of lighting to Mario as well. Like originally, I'd intended on just leaving him entirely in red, but yeah, just adding that touch of yellow to him just gives us obviously the impression that he's about to fall into some flames or lava or something like that. So yeah, this is definitely a case where I thought this comic wasn't going to end up looking good at all, but it ended up quite the opposite. So yeah, I ended up being kind of pleasantly surprised by this one. So thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you at the next video. Take care.